What's up, everybody? How's it going? And welcome to the Rising Night podcast, episode 6. We are doing another 3x3 today. Of course, we're very original.
Yeah.
And we're going to do the movie 3x3 today. Really excited to talk about this one. I really don't get to talk much about movies and that kind of stuff, obviously, because we do like gaming stuff and everything. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to talk about this one because I never talked to you about movies with you. So like I have no idea what kind of movies you like or anything like that. And looking at your 3x3, I'm like, yeah, we like you have some interesting taste and some stuff that I don't know we
Yeah.
really don't talk about. So it's gonna be pretty interesting to talk about. So let's kind of just jump into it right away. I don't think we have to do much delay here. How you doing, first of all, before we move on? You do
I'm
okay?
doing all right. Yeah. Just chilling, I guess. I don't watch a ton of movies. I should probably preface that. And I have a very specific types of movies I like. Like you said, we haven't really
Yeah,
talked about this, so
yeah.
I'm sure we'll get into this as we go along. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
don't really watch a lot of movies too. Although I do like watch movies with my family and stuff like that. There are like
yeah.
specific movies that I actually like, and like there's a reason why I like them, or there's a reason why they appeal to me or something like that. So you
Well,
guys will
there's
definitely see a
also
pattern of like why I like the movies that I like.
yeah, for sure. There's also just you probably have seen a bunch of movies, especially as a kid and growing up too, that you just probably don't remember. Like I guess the movies I have here are movies I love, but also they were memorable to me. So I think I kept thinking about it because when we were making this, I'm like, what movies do I like? I was like, shit. I was just starting to name up movies I've seen, but I was like, do I like those movies though? So was kind of interesting. But I think we're gonna get into your 3x3 first because
All right.
we did mine first for the last thing
Alrighty,
the game.
sounds
So
good. Sounds good. Let's go ahead and jump right into it. Then
yeah.
you guys can see it here, something I've on the screen. So I put the Everything Everywhere All at Once as the first one in the corner because that's like the newest movie on this list. Like out of everything else, which is not early 2000s and even older than that. That particular one is older than everything. Not younger. I'm sorry, newer than anything else. So I figured
Yeah.
that'll be a good kind of way to start here. So like I said, well, I mean, there's a lot of new movies out there. You know, the Marvel movies and movies that I've seen that I'm like, okay, that's a pretty cool movie. But to me, to put in my 3x3 is like a movie that really like impacted me, or like I connected with it in like a really deep level or something like that. Well, I like the Marvel movies, and I'm like, dude, I love like Spider-Man, and I love the Avengers and that kind of shit.
Yeah.
There isn't like one that I will say like the new movies and everything. There's nothing that I will say. Oh, this movie really connects with me in like a much deeper level or something like that. But Everything Everywhere All at Once is a really interesting movie. Have you seen it? Have you heard of it?
No, I think you've told me a little bit about it, and I've heard from a lot of places it's really good, but
Yeah,
I've never seen it
it's
though.
it's a really interesting movie because it deals with a lot of like I'll say it's like almost like the Matrix in a sense, but not really. It has like nothing to do with the Matrix, but it deals with like excess like it has a story of like it's super whack, like it's super weird in like a sense. It's like a family, and they have like everybody have like their own like family issues and everything. Like the mom and the daughter don't get along, and the husband and the wife.
Also, so it's got more. It's got story elements with it too. It's not just
Yeah,
fighting.
it's not just weird shit. It's like it has a story of like a family, like a core family: mom, daughter, grandpa, and father, and they all have like the family dynamic is pretty much like broken apart. Like the mom and the daughter
Hmm.
don't get along. The father and the mother are gonna get a divorce, and like she has like a bad relationship with her father. Like she actually ran away when she was young to marry that one guy, the husband. So
Okay.
there's like a lot of a family dynamic of like at the core of the story, but like there's like multiverse, like there's like multiple versions of every character with like different lives, and some of them are weird as fuck. Where there's like this dimension where they have like sausages for hands, and
What the
yeah,
hell?
like hot dogs, like they have hot dogs for hands, like and like there are the weird shit that they do in order for them to even like connect to another reality. Because they don't
Trippy.
time travel between real they don't like travel between realities, but what they do is they connect with that reality or like with that other alternate version of themselves. And it's really weird because the mom, like, I connected with every character for different reasons. Because the mom is like the kind of person that she was talented growing up and everything, and she gave up some things for her family and everything, but now she feels like there's no time left. Everything, like, time things just didn't turn
Mm.
out the way that she wanted.
Like a
And
midlife crisis, pretty
yeah,
much.
pretty much, right. Like, there's, I think everybody reaches a point in their life that I'm like, oh man, things could have been different if I'd done just X or Y. And
Yeah.
the thing about it is, it's very interesting because you can literally see how different her life will be if she has done X or Y. Because every different. So there is one where, like, she didn't marry that guy and she actually became a famous actress, and that
Wow.
actually plays a part in the story later on, where, like, that version of herself isn't happy because she didn't end up with the guy and she loves him. So, like, every other person of herself also not happy, although they may be more successful than her. They all have, like, different lives, and the lives, like, have different outcomes and everything. And that's just one core, not talking about all the characters or even the bad guy, because everybody has, like, their own issues, and they deal with it's such, like, weird. It has a lot of fucking weird shit. Like, there's a dildo fight, and there's, like, a bunch of, like, weird things to the story, but the elements are, like, so, like, human and so, like, how to explain, um so relatable for, like, such a weird movie. There's, like, such a big relatable aspects to the movie, that I'm like, yeah, this movie, like, actually, like, made me tear up, like, in made me
Hmm.
really think about a lot of things. So I really like that movie. But I guess I'm gonna move on into the next one here. I talked about Marvel movies
It's
earlier.
interesting you say that, like the movies that make you think. I think that's a lot of what my stuff is about as well. But yeah, let's continue though. I'll get more into like I
The
guess like
stuff
that
that
stuff with mine.
Yeah. So the next one that I got is the Spider-Man, like the original Spider-Man movies
Mm.
from the 2000s. I just love this one. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero growing up. And this movie, I just have, like, good memories watching it. Even, like, I remember buying the PlayStation 2 game and playing it all the way through multiple times, and, like, licensed games, we talked about this before, but I hate licensed games. But for
Yeah,
some reason, this particular Spider-Man game, I think it's the Spider-Man 2, actually, the game. I
the
spent,
Activision one,
yeah,
right?
the Activision one, yeah. And even
Yeah.
now, I didn't know that a lot of people actually like that game. But to me, like, growing up, I loved that game. I used to play it all the time,
I
and
had
it
it too.
and goes back with, like, I really like the movie. It may not be the best, like, Spider-Man movie or the best, like, superhero movie or anything like that, because it's the 2000s. But I have such good memories with that I'm like, yeah, I really really like the like, at least that particular time of my life. It's like it reminds me of, like, more, like, much simpler times. and
Yeah,
just, I don't know, I just have good vibes on that. And whenever they did the Spider-Man No Way Home movie, and I mean, if you haven't seen it already, I'm gonna spoil it now, so go away if you haven't seen No Way Home. Well, then bring back the other Peter Parkers from the other movies and everything. That was, like, to me, that was, like, the cool moment. Like, oh man, this is nostalgia, but, like, it felt right. Like, it wasn't, like, cheap nostalgia or anything like that. Like, they did such a
it
good job
seems
of,
like
like,
it's written well. Like a lot of the Spider-Man movies are written well, but I get what you mean. Something about the nostalgia and the vibes of like when you watch the older ones. It's something about that that makes it so good.
yeah, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I love that movie. I had good time with that movie, and I think it's a great Spider-Man movie. I know a lot of people like other Spider-Man movies or something, but I don't know. I just have a good time with this one. And it's not like, I'm not saying it's the best one or anything, but it's definitely one that I have a lot of good memories with, and a lot of, like, yeah, this is cool. I like it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So moving on to the next one, I guess, is Back to the Future. Now, Back to the Future, I do consider one of the best movies ever made. I think, like, it impacted cinematography in, like, a lot of different ways. From, like, not only just from, like, a story writing perspective, like, the concept of time traveling isn't a new concept or anything like that, but the
Yeah,
way that it's done in the movies is something that to this day is still referenced by
dude,
like so
it's
many different medias.
Rick and Morty is literally just that. Like we wouldn't
Right.
have Rick and Morty without it. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
exactly. And I consider this to be one of the best movies. I really like. I love the characters. I like the writing. The actor, it's such a thing about it that I didn't grow up with this movie because this is from the 80s and I wasn't born back then, but I remember the first time I watched this movie that I was like conscious and like knowing. I was like, this is one of the best movies I've ever seen as a child. Like I was like, this is such a good movie. Like, and even growing up, like watching it again or like as an adult you watch it and you're like, wow, there's like so many stuff on this movie. Appreciate the way that they did the props and everything because it's not easy, like especially in the 80s, like the way that they do certain things, like having a car fly and all that stuff, the special effects, the lightning and everything, it's really well done. I think it's a really it's one of those movies that really pushes the boundaries of like what was possible in the 80s for movies. uh and
It's also a trilogy. There wasn't a lot of trilogies out then. Like it's
yeah,
80s. Like this is
yeah.
before Harry Potter, before Lord of the Rings trilogies. Like I'm trying to think of like trilogies like at that point. Like maybe Terminator had a
Yeah,
couple movies
they,
out
there,
by
there
then.
was a time period where a lot of trilogies were happening, but even Terminator has like way more than three movies, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
But
or
back to these
like
trilogies, like
Rambo or anything like that. But those were like popcorn movies, like popular movies, right? But
yeah,
I don't know, something about this movie that I'm like, yeah, I love that, and I love the '80s. Although I'm not an '80s kid or anything like that, I got a lot of like '80s feelings. I don't know, I don't know how to explain it.
80s vibes.
'80s
Yeah,
vibes, yeah. I watched that movie I'm like, hey, the '80s. And I'm like, I wasn't even alive back then, but yeah, I love that movie. It's a great movie. I think I haven't seen anything like that. Like, even now, I think about like, yeah, there's maybe better written movies nowadays, or like special effects or anything like that. But for its time, I think it's just product of its time, and it does a good job being that.
and it makes you think a little bit, especially with like the other movies where like if you watch the first one and you watch like the third one or something like that, like you go back in time to the first movie and see the events of the first movie and stuff. Like you actually have to
Yeah,
like
yeah,
think a little
exactly.
bit about it, and like
Yeah, yeah,
to wrap your head around it. I love that
yeah,
because
yeah.
that's like something you don't see every day. Like there's action movies, sure, but like a movie that makes you like think about that doesn't happen.
Yeah,
Like
because
even
it
some
makes you
movies
think of
nowadays.
like the stuff that they do. Because, for example, in the first movie, Marty McFly drops a book in this guy's it's
Oh,
a
the
yeah,
almanac, yeah.
it's a book, yeah, the almanac. Yeah, he drops a book with like basically like all the betting things and everything, and that's such a small thing that you don't really think about it, but in the second movie, that's literally like the whole. It literally changed the entire. The
Yeah.
little that little book changed the entire future of like 1984. So like that whole thing is like that's its own like plot, right? And like that's the kind of thing they're like, okay, so it's not like they're just traveling in time and they can do whatever they want. Like what they do has consequences on the future and stuff. And that's the kind of stuff that I like because it's not just a scene. Sure, there's plot holes and everything. Now there's people that done like a bunch of videos about it, but I feel like for its
The
time,
grandfather paradox too.
yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I'm talking about?
yeah,
Like
exactly.
if Marty, like the first movie is about him making sure his parents get back together. But the thing is, if Marty went back in time and stopped his parents from getting together, he would never exist. So he couldn't have went back in time to do it in the first place. Literally,
Yeah.
that whole movie is flawed by the grandfather paradox or
Hmm.
whatever. So I know it's weird, but
Yeah,
it's
but I
still
mean,
they're great movies.
I still like it. Even though, yeah, like I said, there's definitely plot holes. There's stuff like that, but
There's like
I think it's still
philosophical
one of those movies
questions.
that changed cinema in a lot of ways.
Definitely. Like your next one, which we can move on to,
And
did it as well.
yeah, yeah. Alrighty, I guess I should move into the next one. I guess I don't know which one. Should I go down there? Yeah, I'm gonna do the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
So
let's
I
put it that
put this
way.
one as kind of just like a blanket for like the entire Lord of the Rings world and everything.
That's what I did too for like The Hobbit.
Yeah,
Yeah, just so people know, I don't necessarily think that we'll get to that later with mine, I guess. But
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we can
I
go
did
ahead and
that
talk
too.
about it, so we can do it together here, I guess. So we don't have
Yeah,
to talk about
we can do that.
two Lord of the Rings conversations or anything.
Yeah.
Honestly, Lord of the Rings, I owe so much to Lord of the Rings. I remember back in the day, I was really into a lot of reading, which I will
Hmm.
talk about more about that with Harry Potter. But there was a time period I was like, I need to read more fantasy stuff. And I remember one of my teachers. It was an old lady, and she was a math teacher. I remember, and I remember some of my friends were talking about there was gonna be a Lord of the Rings movie, and I knew of Lord of the Rings from like trying to find fantasy books and everything, but I felt like it will be like, oh man, this will be something like maybe I won't be like it, I won't like it or anything like that. And I remember my teacher like got in the conversation and she started talking about it, and she was like, she was she did not like Argon from the movie. She was like, he's a
Oh,
coward.
really?
Yeah, well, to her argument was actually very interesting. She stated that she thought that Argon was a coward because he let Frodo carry the ring, and Argon is supposed to be he's the descendant. He's supposed to be the one tasked with like taking the ring and destroying it because he's the descendant of the person that caused this whole thing
Yeah.
in the first place. And
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah, and that was like, so like I don't think he redeemed himself and everything. I was like, I haven't read this book, so I don't know who this Argon guy is. But it sounds really interesting, and she got in a really heated argument actually. And that day, I was like, okay, I think I need to read these books because I don't know what the hell's going on. There's like so many weird names and stuff, and I was like, okay, so I went and went to the library and read the first book, and I read through it. I was like, dude, there's so many fucking words in this one. That was my first thing. I was
Dude,
like,
Tolkien doesn't hold back, but I think that's the good thing. He's good at world building, right? So yes, there's a lot of like descriptive type things, which is what I
yeah,
love.
yeah, yeah,
Like
exactly.
even down to like the sword they have. Like Bilbo's sword has a name and everything, and it has properties that it does and stuff. Like no movies do a lot of things like that. Go into like such like detail for things, which is I think one of the reasons why I love Lord of the Rings and like The Hobbit. 'Cause Tolkien does so much like focus on fantasy stuff, which I think why I put The Hobbit is because I think it's just a teeny bit better. I don't think it's a whole lot better, but I think it's a teeny bit better. And they were made later. I think I just ended up watching them around then. I don't know.
Yeah, I think what it is I can see why some people will say that because well, a couple things, right? The Lord of the Rings movies are now like 20 years old, so there's definitely a
Yeah.
significant gap on like how movies were made back then and how movies are made now. CG is like way better now than it was 20 years ago, but
Yeah.
also The Hobbit is only one book, so they split The Hobbit in three films, and
Yeah.
so they had plenty of times to like develop the characters, like add more stuff. They added new characters into the movies and everything, and that kind of gives them a lot of freedom with like what to do with these things and everything. So I think that's what it was. I personally feel like I'm disappointed right now because they're gonna be doing a Lord of the Rings TV show, but it's not Lord of the Rings. It's like the world of Lord of the Rings, basically. So it's
Yeah, I
not
heard
good.
about
Yeah.
that.
So I'm like, well, if you already have the books, you can just do that. Like you can just make them in TV show form where there's like maybe if they have the budget of something like the Game of Thrones TV show, I
That
think it
would be
could be good.
nuts.
Because that way you're getting the quality of a movie, but with the time that you need to develop the characters and the story, especially be talking. Because I think that's the thing about Tolkien is because he writes so well and he's so descriptive. That's the kind of stuff that you easily miss on the movies because the movies are only like 2 hours long, right? Even with extended editions are like what 3 hours, 4 hours long. It's still not
Yeah.
enough time to give you enough.
The Hobbit movies are longer, I think.
Yeah,
They're all like 3 hours, but which now I think about it, the fact that there's one book and they made it three, they really must have really took their own like like creative
freedom. Yeah, they
vision
definitely. I
to it.
feel like now the Hobbit. I feel like it could have been done in 2 movies and being great, but they definitely added a bunch of plots and a bunch of stuff that kind of makes sense. But the way that they did it, very, very smart. Is a lot of the stuff that they set up is set up backwards. So he sets up to Lord of the Rings. So a lot
Yeah,
of the
funny
stuff that
enough,
they
whenever I can't remember his name, who's the guy who directed these, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings? I can't remember his name. Peter,
Peter
is it
Jackson.
Peter Jackson?
Mm.
Yeah, he pitched Lord of the Rings as 2 movies, but they told him that's not going to work. It has to be 3. Like we want to do one per book or something. So they ended up having to change it, which is like weird enough. It's funny too. They didn't start with like The Hobbit. They went
Yeah.
direct to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, but at the same time, you gotta think about it this way. Back in the day, there weren't the concept of splitting a book in multiple parts of movies wasn't a thing. I think it was during like Harry Potter and like the what is that? Was that series? What the one with the vampires?
Twilight,
Twilight. Yeah, it was during that time period where they started splitting the books into
or
like parts.
like
So
mid 2000s.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
like instead of just doing like book 7 of Harry Potter, it's like book 7 part 1 and then part 2.
And I
Right?
guess Lord of the Rings really started that because like Fellowship of the Ring, I think it's like 2002. So that's I think a year before. I think a year before Harry Potter or something like that, and Twilight's like 2006 or 7 or something. So like Lord of the Rings really kind of started that whole thing, I think. So that makes sense why it might have been hard to pitch like per book then, because nobody had done it before. But I mean, I'm glad they did because I like that. I think it's good to have more detail and more movies, even if I have to wait a little bit, because I feel like it makes the ending like that much better. So I don't mind it a whole lot.
Yeah, yeah, it's pretty good. I like it. I think they did a good job. And at the end of the day, I think they're good movies. Like I don't think anybody will argue that these are like. And the best thing about it is, although they are a little bit older now, if you watch them now, they're still like really well made. Like they're really
Yeah,
well
man.
shot. I think these movies are like almost timeless. Like although CG could be better, they are still not to the point that they will be like jarring or like ugly or anything like that. I think the cinematography was really well done. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I'm good to go with Lord of the Rings. Did you have anything you wanted to add about Lord of the Rings?
No, I just something else I wanted to say though is The Hobbit 2 is interesting in one way because it was filmed in 60 frames, I think. And most movies are filmed like I think 27 frames a second or something like that,
That's
but
right. Yeah.
The Hobbit is filmed in 60, and people actually thought the movie was shot worse because they didn't understand why they were seeing it at 60 frames. But I think me just being a gamer and playing video games and stuff, I never noticed like it looked different than that. But I guess people when it first came out looked that way. Like it actually looking better, people thought it was worse. Funny enough, but
Yeah,
yeah,
I guess it depends on how the eyes are adjusted to a certain thing, right?
yeah.
That's pretty interesting thing. I didn't know about that. Anyway, let's go ahead and move into the next one. So the next one is Harry Potter. It's in the middle. This one really like ignited my love for fantasy. I know you guys can see my thing, and there's a lot of fantasy in it. So, so Harry Potter was like the one that started it. I was actually like 9 or 10 years old, and or might have been 11. I don't know, somewhere around that, like 9 to 11. And the Harry Potter movie had just come out, the very first one, and we saw it, and my dad was like, "Oh yeah, it's about a Harry Potter, about a magician or whatever, or like wizard." I was like, "Okay, yeah, we should check it out." And we went to watch it, and I was like, "Dude, what the fuck? This movie's so good!" And in my mind, I was like, "I need to like, what is this, right? Like, that's pretty good." So I watched the first movie, and I remember I was reading the newspaper. Yes, the 11-year-old kid reading the newspaper.
Wow.
And
I don't even think I did that.
and I saw there was an not an ad but like a review. There was a review of the other Harry Potter books, and because I used to read a lot, but I will read like just random shit that I could get my hands on. There wasn't like a particular book that I was like, oh man, this is the book that I love or whatever. And I was reading reviews for future books to read, and I see that there's Harry Potter books, and I was like, they wrote books on that one movie that we just watched last week. And I told my dad, I was like, hey, they wrote books about this movie, and then he was like, no, the book's been out. And I was like, well, can I get them? So at the time there were only 3 books, and the fourth book was coming soon. And I think if I remember this correctly, and so I bought. They got me all 3 books, and I read them within like a week. So like, so I was like, I literally read
Jeez,
them like
man.
every day. And I remember when the fourth book came out, I actually like I went to midnight release, I got it, read it, and read it again. And I was like, I read it like 3 times. So I was like, oh my god! And from then on, I was like super obsessed with Harry Potter. Like I watched all the movies. I put the third movie because it's the one that is the farthest from the actual book. But that's actually why I like Harry Potter, the Prisoner of Azkaban, because it's different. Like it's Harry Potter, but it has like a different tone and it's a little bit different from the other movies and everything, from the other books and everything. It's almost like its own thing, but it's still like pretty close to the books. And I really liked it. I still love the movies. I own all of them. I own them on like every version possible. Like I have them on DVD and Blu-ray, and
I have them on Blu-ray. I have the
yeah. And
Blu-ray
I'll
cut.
watch them pretty not frequently anymore because I know them by memory at this point. That I'm like I don't I like I can watch them, but like I still have like they're pretty fresh in my brain. And that was and then the other book came out, which is like the 8th book, and that was really bad. Like it made me not be a fan.
Yeah,
Like I
the
know
movies
people talk
too.
about like the J.K. Rowling, like all this bullshit that she says on Twitter or whatever. I'm like, nah, bro. The moment she approved that book, she killed the franchise for me. Cause she
Yeah,
didn't write that book. There was like some people approached her and they were like, "Hey, do you want to do this as a play?" By the way, plays are good. Like people were arguing with me that I'm like, "Oh, it's because plays read differently from books." I'm like, I read plays. Okay, I read good plays. This is not a good play, and I don't know. I hated it. I hated it, and yeah, I hope they don't ever make it a movie. I hope they don't make it canon. To me, this thing was never canon. Probably somebody's gonna be like, "Yo, this thing is canon." And I'll be like, "No, no, it isn't. Not in my world."
it's not allowed to be.
Yeah, I don't want it to be canon. Yeah, but yeah, I love Harry Potter. Yeah, it's just one of those things. I think there was a craze back in the day where a lot of people were like Harry Potter fans, but they wouldn't read the books. They'll just like watch the movies.
It's
Um,
weird. I caught on super late. Like the first time I watched Harry Potter was like 4 years ago. Strangely enough, but I really fell in love with them. I don't know what
how
it
did you
is.
escape the craze for like? I mean, like growing up, I was like
I don't
everybody was talking
know.
about Harry Potter and stuff.
This might be it. I had a best friend who was super crazy about it, and because he was, I feel like I intentionally made myself not want to
They're
like
like,
watch
okay,
it.
I need to not watch this.
I
It's
was like,
crazy.
no, dude, you're a fucking nerd. Quit being weird. But like, no, it's actually like really fucking good. So yeah, I don't know. I always loved like old castles and like old buildings and things. I've always sort of loved that, and I think that's half of it for me is like the um the environments in those games are really good. I really love that. They did a good job filming those movies, I feel like.
Yeah, I think same thing with Lord of the Rings, right? I feel like there was a time period where what they did really like it's pretty good. Like I still those movies, I still feel like they like hold themselves pretty well. I think
Definitely.
fantasy works well with like fantasy more than sci-fi. I think it fits well the aesthetic of like the CGI not being super good because it does look magical in a sense. Like it doesn't just look like ugly. Because you can look at some movies and some movies have like really bad CGI. You see that and you're like, holy shit, that looks so fucking bad. You look like, which is my next thing, the Star Wars, right? Like Star Wars, like the prequels. You look at like the Star Wars Episode 1 and you're like, holy shit, this is like the ugliest CGI ever seen.
It's pretty ugly. Yeah.
Yeah, but then you look at like Harry Potter, and you're like, oh, I mean, like, it's magic, right? So your brain kind of like tricks you into thinking, okay, that's like a little bit better, which is kind of crazy, right? Magic versus sci-fi, right? You will think it will be okay either way, but I think one is more jarring than the other one. I think that's probably what the problem is. Uh,
Yeah. I think it also depends a little bit on like what it is. Like monsters being CGI, I could tell so bad if it's not done right. Like the like all of the first Harry Potters are like really good. There's only like two things I feel like the CGI looked super bad on, and that was the Cerberus and also the like giant that's in the bathroom with
oh
Hermione.
yeah, yeah.
Those look so bad now if you go look at
Mm.
it. But like everything else still looks good. Like it doesn't look bad at all. But for some reason those two things just look so bad. But yeah.
Yeah,
Speaking
already.
about Star
Well,
Wars.
Star Wars. Well, I made a whole review on the Spider-Man. I'm sorry, the Star Wars TV show, the one they did for. I've been a Star Wars fan. I think this one is kind of like, what can I say that already hasn't been said? I love Star Wars. I think my dad is a Star Wars fan, and that's kind of what
Hmm.
started me watching those movies. We remember we will watch them, and I remember when the episode one came out, we all as a family went to watch it together, and consequently, pretty much every single Star Wars movie, like on release night, we will go and watch them. Like I have vividly remembering when we went to watch episode three at midnight, and like people were dressed up in costumes, and when the movie came out, everybody lit up their lightsabers and stuff. It was like a
Oh
pretty
god.
cool experience. Like
It's
honestly,
so nerdy though.
yeah, but that's how it is. You know, it
That's
is.
kind of Star Wars fans, so
Yeah.
yeah.
So it was cool. I remembered all that, and I don't know. I just have good stuff with Star Wars. The new stuff has been really hit or miss, and more miss than hit.
Yeah, people used to give the prequels shit, but I think that's just kind of my generation of Star Wars. I really love it. I still do. So
Yeah. I never
yeah.
thought they were bad movies. I thought they just looked bad, like the CGI and everything. Because it doesn't make sense because a lot of the CGI isn't needed, especially when you look at how they did the original trilogy of Star Wars. You're like, yeah, I mean, you had no technology, but you still had like imagination, and you did a good job with it, right? So I don't know. It's kind of interesting, I think. But I like it. I think they're great movies. My favorite one is Episode 4. I think everybody likes Episode 5 more.
Oh, you like A New Hope more?
Yeah, I like a New Hope. I just like the beginning. I literally like most TV shows or movies. I like the first part of it because it isn't
Hmm.
super stressful. It's more like the setup. I love the setup. To me, the setup is what drives me like to like the rest of them. Right? If I hadn't liked the first one, I wouldn't like the rest of it. Basically,
It does have a really great setup though. Like it really
yeah.
gets you invested. Like
Yeah,
it
it gets
feels
you
like a fun
invested and
journey.
everything, and Obi-Wan Kenobi is like the wizard, the space wizard, right? And although there isn't much force in this one, because if you think that's probably why they like the episode 5 more, because there's like more action and more Jedi stuff, I think. But
Yeah.
in the previous one, there isn't much of that. It's just you know
I think you see a bit
s-
more
s-
Vader too in that
yeah,
one.
yeah. The first one just doesn't have enough of everything, right? Because it's a setup. Like I said, it's a movie that takes you from a point A to point B, but point B isn't the final destination. It's just the journey of it. So I personally really like what they do with it, but I know some people that are like the other movies more or something, but every movie is good except for like the new movies. You know what? I will say I liked episode 7. I don't think it was bad, but episode 8 and 9 really like made me be like, yo, what the fuck, man? Like, yo,
I think
you
that's
could
how
have
I feel
hired
about it too.
any fan, and they probably would have written something better than this fan fiction looking thing.
Yeah, probably. It's just the way that they go about the story. They're like, we're gonna go in a different direction. They're like, you know what? Never mind, we're not. And they completely just go back on what they did. Like they set up so much stuff. you would assume would happen, or like you'd get some answers for, and then they just do like the super typical cop out answer. That's kind of why I don't like. I guess I just don't want to like spoil it. I guess, but if you watch it, you'll get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You definitely will know what he's saying if you know you know.
If you know, you know. But I mean, I don't know. Again, that's also Disney buying it and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
you
how
know,
I
I
see it.
remember, I clearly remember when Star Wars was bought out by Disney, and I had two questions. First one is why, and the second one was, are we getting lightsabers in Kingdom Hearts? And
Yeah,
neither
where's
of these two
my
things
Kingdom
were.
Hearts world?
Yeah, exactly. Now that it's been this long, I'm like, yo, this was a waste of a purchase. You didn't put Star Wars in Kingdom Hearts. Maybe in the next one, I guess. And I don't know. The movies haven't been great. Neither have the games. Nothing. They really have pushed nothing that has really like. Maybe the Mandalorian, but I can't really think of anything that was like, wow, this was such a good purchase for Disney. Uh,
Kenobi was good, but
Kenobi,
like
yeah, Kenobi was
a
good, but
decent amount of it.
it really banked on what I was talking about earlier. Like of you being a
Yeah,
fan already, and like in itself, I don't
but
think.
not all that had to been there, and this wasn't needed. You already knew the conclusion of Kenobi
Yeah, yeah.
as
So
well.
it was just kind of like this is this is like the easiest example of a cash grab done right, because at least it was decent. But you definitely knew it was a cash grab. When they had Duel of the Fates playing on the backgrounds, you know they were playing with your emotions right there.
Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, even saying like the same phrases and words from episode
Oh
three,
yeah, didn't he
you
say
know.
hello there at one point? I'm just like, just a fucking meme at this
Yeah,
point,
and
man.
like when Vader and him, I guess I don't want to spoil it. They say similar things to each other,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, right, right, right. Because they can't go further than that. They can't have like the final confrontation, because that happens in episode 4. So there's so many limitations to doing something like that. That's why I didn't want. I originally didn't want Kenobi to be a thing, because I'm like, what are you gonna do? We kind of know his story
Yeah,
already. Like, where are you gonna drive this from? You can't
I
really do
was
anything with it.
super, I was super skeptical, but now I'm like, it's good, but it
It's
wasn't
good,
needed.
but it doesn't really build up anything. It doesn't do anything because it can't do anything. Like all it does is sets up certain characters for their own
Well,
spin-offs.
there's Jedi Fallen Order, which is maybe the best thing out of the
Yeah,
Disney
Jedi
prequels.
Fallen Order
Maybe
is the best thing being a game, and I heard that it's gonna get a TV show, so we'll see about that.
it's getting a new game too, right?
Yeah, it's
Pretty
getting a
cool.
new game and it's getting a TV show, so we'll see how they manage the story. They may just retell the original story from the game in like, and then just continue from there on as a story or something.
Yeah,
I wonder. I don't know yet, but it would be really cool if they did it, because I think that it's great. Anyway, I want to move on to the next one here so we don't delay for too long on each movie here.
I know nothing about this next one. I haven't seen a single one.
You don't know The Matrix?
I've never seen them. I know what it is. I've never seen it though.
What? Oh my god, The
Yeah,
Matrix. The Matrix is another genre-defining movie. That's how I see it. I feel like most of the movies that I have here were genre-defining in some kind of way.
yeah.
So this movie here is the Matrix is just. I mean, I don't even know how to explain it to you. They live in a false reality, basically, like a game, I guess, if you will, and only very few people are aware that they are in a false reality. And this whole thing is about like being awakened, but it's like it's not just a movie about the movie, but it's a movie telling you a message about the reality that we live in. So it's like it's doing two things. It's giving you a message, but at the same time, it's doing the story and everything. And uh, yeah, it's kind of crazy. I really don't know how you haven't seen this movie.
I've thought about it. There's been a lot of times 'cause I think is it Hulu? Hulu has it or something like that, and they're all on there. And I'm like, should I start them all? Because I know once I start it, it's like okay,
Hmm.
I'm watching all of them now. I can't just
Oh no!
only
I mean,
see
you can
one and
just watch
wait.
the first one. I think the first one is the only good one. I don't like the other ones.
Really?
Yeah. The stories of Neo. Neo is the Keanu Reeves. He's the
Yeah,
protagonist, and basically he's like the chosen one. He's the Luke Skywalker basically, and he's the one person that's gonna free the people from like this matrix. And there's enemies, obviously the system. Basically, it's just like the people versus the system kind of storyline and everything. And he just goes up crazy. He goes crazy in like ways of like, oh, okay, there's bigger, badder enemies or things to do and everything. And then he unlocks he unlocks his power, I guess, if you will. And I don't know. I'm sure we've seen like at least like cutscenes or like little things or
Yeah,
like
all
fights and everything.
him like
Where he like
stopping the bullets and stuff.
yeah. That's kind
Yeah,
of like the stuff that you'll see in there and everything. But it's pretty interesting stuff. It's really hard to explain it without like going too deep in it. But
yeah.
I strongly recommend that it's a good movie. Although again CGI, that's what I said. Like I think CGI works so well for fantasy, but I don't think it works really well for like sci-fi. Unfortunately, this is one of those movies that you can see the CGI and you're like, okay, this is pretty bad CGI.
Yeah.
All right, so the next
It seems
one.
like a concept though, like the
So
Matrix movies.
I'm also curious. You haven't seen The Nightmare Before Christmas?
I have seen that. Yeah, I love that movie.
Oh, because you said you haven't seen the last three. I was like, whoa, you haven't seen Nightmare Before Christmas?
Well, no, the three um Matrix movies. It's three of them, right?
Oh, okay. Well, there's one more. There's a new one that just came out
Oh,
recently.
that's right. They made like a newer one.
Yeah.
No, I've seen Nightmare Before Christmas. I can kind of talk about Coraline here. We're both talking about Tim Burton.
Yeah, we can go ahead
I
and
guess
talk
I could
about Tim
kind of throw
Burton.
that in there too.
Yeah.
It's not well, Coraline's not exactly Tim Burton, but it's the same
It's
director. And
kind of, yeah, he has that same like style to Tim Burton, right?
it's the same director too.
Yeah,
So
so I love Tim Burton. Like, I think he's mostly a producer. In most of this stuff, actually, most of the stuff that you see his name on is just as producing.
yeah,
Although a lot of people credit him as a director, as a writer, I know he is very involved in these movies. And everything Tim Burton that I've seen, I really like. I haven't seen something that I didn't like from him, and I just put this one because I was like, this is like the most popular that most people know of. But honestly, I
yeah.
could have put anything there that I feel like I thought about putting Caroline. I thought about putting Sweeney Todd.
I almost
Uh,
put Edward Scissorhands on here, and
I
also Beetlejuice is also really good
Beetlejuice,
too.
exactly. I almost put
Yeah,
Beetlejuice. There were like so many that I was like, okay, Edward Scissorhands, Beetlejuice. I was like, I could put any of these movies, and I think that either way it could really it worked.
there's
Like
also another one, Sleepy Hollow. Have you
Sleepy
seen that?
Hollow, dude, is so good. Yeah, like I said, there's
That movie's
something
great.
about those movies, and something that it's something that you can't just like put your finger on it. It has a specific style.
Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. Like even in the scenes where it looks nice, like it's not dark. 'Cause most of them are dark, which I like. I love that vibe. But even in like Sweeney Todd, it shows him like before all the tragedy and stuff happens to him. It's super colorful and stuff.
Yeah.
But even then, somehow it's like somewhat eerie. I don't know how
hmm
that happens. It's
Even
like
even
Charlie
movies
Chocolate
like
Factory.
even movies like that, or even like Big Fish, Corpse Bride. I don't know. There's just so many good movies that he's done that I'm like, yeah, I'm a big fan of his stuff.
The Batman. He does Batman.
He did
For a few
Batman,
ones,
yeah. He
too.
did,
Yeah,
but he did like two Batman movies, I think.
yeah.
That's
Batman
really
Returns.
interesting. The only movie that I'll say that I don't like from him that I just thought about is Dumbo.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
I forgot about
it's
that.
a dark spin, I guess, on Dumbo. And first of all, I don't like elephants or Dumbo the movie. So this one was just like, okay, this is not for me. Like, there's nothing about it that will make me be like, yeah, I would like to watch this movie. And I watched it, and it was just okay. So unfortunately, he was not able to save mid. It was still
Yeah.
mid at the end. But yeah, I love Tim Burton stuff. I think it works pretty well. I love the tone and style. Like there's still a style to his movies. Even the music is like really good too in these movies.
Yeah, Sweeney Todd is singing in it. I
Yeah,
never liked singing like play like
me
movies.
neither.
Then I
I
watched
hate when
that
they
and
do that.
I was like, shit, this is actually kind of good. I don't know why I like this so much, but it's not bad.
Yeah. That's the kind of stuff that I'm like, dude, it's really fucking cool. I like that.
No, I
But I don't
guess
like it in most things. Like when they start singing, I'm like, "Whoa, shut the fuck up! I just want to watch the movie. I just want to know what the fuck is going on." And the thing is, I don't pay attention to lyrics, so like it's really hard for me when I watch something and they're like the music is related or it does something to it. For even Persona, for example, like the lyrics are like attached to like the story in some way, and I never listen to the lyrics. So when people tell me, I'm like, oh my god, you know in the lyrics, I'm like, well, I don't listen to the lyrics. When I listen to music, I listen to it. Think of the voice as just another instrument. That's what I hear. Like
Yes,
I
that's
don't.
why. Well, that's why I can listen to like Japanese music. People are like, why are you listening to that? You can't understand what they're saying. It's like that's not the point, you know. I listen to the instrumentation and
Yeah,
like the
exactly. Just
voices
look at it
in
the same
there.
way as that. That's how I
Yeah,
see it. Anyway, so
definitely.
so the last one, unless you had something else to say about that, because you want to still talk about
Well, for
Coraline,
Coraline,
right?
yeah, I picked Coraline because I don't know. Coraline just again, it's the same creepy vibes and everything. I feel like this is where the claymation is like at its peak. Because if you watch this movie, it's so good. There's like thousands and thousands they have models they had to do for Coraline because they had to do that in general. But like, there's certain bits about the Night Before Christmas where it looks a little aged with claymation, but like I feel like the claymation is peak here in Coraline. Like, there's a lot of stuff they go into it, and especially the big creepy like monsters and things, and the
They
house. I
they
think I was also
do.
just
They
a
really
kid.
do.
I think I was also just like a kid, like similar to her age. So it's sort of just like it felt like I related to it.
Hmm.
You know, it's like especially like a big house and everything that I had like when I was younger. So like I think that's why I picked Coraline.
Yeah,
It's
it's really good.
still
It's a good choice. I really love the like what we're talking about with the claymation and everything. It's really well made. I don't know if you guys seen any of those documentaries where they actually show how it's made and everything, but it's so cool to watch it live and everything. Like you can see them changing heads and like moving them slowly and everything, or like in real time and everything. It's really cool. I don't know if you guys seen it or not, but I strongly recommend you guys checking out how the
yeah.
movies are made and everything, because it gives you another appreciation, like another level of appreciation on how those are made.
Like behind the scenes. I think a lot of the movies have certain things like that where you can see that. But yeah, literally any of the Tim Burton things that we just talked about are like pretty fucking good. Like I recommend all of them to be honest. If you like
Yeah,
one of them, you're probably gonna like the rest as well.
yeah. There's very few that I'll say like, oh, don't watch that.
Yeah,
Alrighty, so moving on to the last one here, so we can move on into Risings. So the last one, I don't know if you know it. You know it?
it's Daft Punk, right?
Yeah, is it Daft
I
Punk
know it.
movie?
I know they have an animated, a Japanese like animator made
Yeah,
the
so it's
animation,
called
right?
Interstellar 5555. The story of the secret star system. That's what the S is. That the 555. What it is. That's what it is.
Goodness.
And basically, it's there are like aliens, if you will, but they're like musicians, and that plays into like the rest of the story. It's really hard to explain. But all you need to know is that the entire movie is the discovery of Daft Punk, but like
Hmm.
in a storytelling, and like even the music, it's like basically a giant music video, but like that's the whole movie.
Because I've seen the music videos for a couple of the songs, like One More Time, and that's them getting abducted. So like I guess I've seen parts of this kind of through the just looking up the music
Yeah, yeah, and
videos.
the music video is basically literally that. They what they did is they cut out the those parts, the where they sing those those songs, and that's just
Yeah.
the music video basically. But dude, everything is great. Like every time, every something else happen in the story, like they sing it or like they do it and everything. Like I love they do. I don't know. I love Daft Punk. So like the music is great. Whenever we do the 3x3, you already know Daft Punk is gonna be in the list.
Yeah. I
uh,
feel like we're saving that one for last because I know that's gonna be a good fucking episode because we both love music a lot. We're
hmm
both musicians as well, so that'll be a pretty like interesting
Yeah,
episode once we
but
get to
anyway,
it.
I this one I love because of the movie, but also because this is one of the very few times where I've seen a Western band have like this level of like having an anime with all their music on it. I
Yeah, it's
think
so
I
different.
think very few times have I seen Western music on anime.
or just animated in general like that. Like I guess the gorillas, like the only other thing it's like animated. I guess, but
Yeah, yeah, but
like
that's
yeah,
different. That's not. It doesn't have like. It's not Japanese, I guess,
yeah, it's
inherently,
not
right?
Japanese. Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
but like I remember, for example, you like this band? What is it called? Oh man, what is it called? You
That's
like this band? They play Wonderwall.
oh, Oasis. Yeah,
Oasis, yeah, you're Oasis fan, right? I think we
I
talked about
love
this, right?
Oasis.
Yeah, they're one of the endings of one of my favorite anime. Oasis plays the ending.
Oh, Beck, right? Was that the one? The anime?
No, no, it's actually not
Oh,
related to like music or anything. It's just
oh,
the ending. It's Oasis, and I was like, dude, the first time I watched it, I was like, I know this band, and I was like, wait, is that fucking Oasis? And
I'm
yeah, like,
curious what song it is.
it's I tell you in a second.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't put you on the spot.
No, 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 no. It's fine. It's fine. Is it the ending or the opening? Oh, it's actually the opening. It's falling
Really?
down.
I don't
You
think I know.
never heard it?
I mean, I've probably heard it, but I don't know. That's probably, I think that's gotta be later in their career. I think.
Yeah, it's called Eden of the East. If you guys are interested on checking that out, and I know Ergo Proxy uses Radiohead.
Hmm, that's interesting.
Yeah, so pretty cool stuff. I mean, I love when they do that. When they do more like when they take like Western songs in like a movie or like, and like Ergo Proxy. You seen Ergo Proxy before?
I've seen bits of it. I haven't
Well,
watched the whole thing.
the main protagonist is literally the girl from Evanescence. Like they literally drew her
Oh
after her.
yeah, it does
Yeah,
look like her. Now that I think about it.
yeah. Uh, so it's really cool. I don't know. I love that, and yeah, I love those kind of stuff. So that's why I put it. I thought I wanted to put something anime on it. That'd be like, yeah, this is something that I vibe to. But most of the movies that I was thinking of, like anime movies, I'm like, they're good, but nothing has really impacted me like to the point that I had to put it. But this one is really good. I encourage it to watch it if you guys are interested in that stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I thought about putting like a Dragon Ball movie, but I was like, I don't think it beats any of these movies I have here. But
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
uh,
That's pretty much how I feel about it. Alrighty,
which
so we can move on now, I guess, into yours.
yeah. So the first thing I have is Captain America. Now I'm not a huge Marvel dude, but like this is before I even realized all the Marvel movies were going to be like a thing because it's the first Captain America movie, and I love World War II movies. You can see on my list I have like a few of them. I have two other World War II movies in here. I just like love World War II stuff. I guess 1970s World War One, but I love like that sort of thing. Like I like Saving Private Ryan and stuff like that as well. But this is like so interesting to me because it's like it's a Marvel hero movie, but also set in World War II. And there's a reason why I picked this first one because the rest of them aren't. You know, it's modern day, whatever, with the Avengers and stuff. But
Right,
this is
right,
like a World
exactly,
War
yeah.
II movie alongside a Marvel hero movie. So that's why I put that there, and I love that one. Captain America and Doctor Strange are my favorite like Avengers, so that's kind of the only reason I put it there. To be honest, I just
Fair
think it's a
enough, fair
good
enough.
war movie.
Hey, it's fine, it's fine. It's a good movie. It's not a bad movie. It has good stuff in
Yeah,
it.
it's one of the first movies I ever like bought and owned myself as well.
Oh, really?
So
Now, I think I actually own that movie too. Now that I'm thinking about it, I think I own that was because it was like whenever those movies started coming out, the Marvel movies, I was like, dude, they're gonna eventually like connect them together. And so I
yeah,
bought that one, and I bought I think like the Iron Man movie and something else. I think like the first Thor movie, and then they did Avengers, and I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. They're doing it, and I couldn't keep up. There's too many movies that I didn't like all of them to the point where I wanted to own all the Marvel movies or anything like that. So, like I said, not every Marvel movie is a banger. There's a lot of meh, or like a lot of it was
Yeah,
fine, you know.
there's some
Especially
mid tier
nowadays.
ones.
Yeah, especially nowadays. I feel like now they're taking off the pedal. You know, they're not trying as hard anymore because they don't have to. They know it's gonna sell either way.
I got burnt out so bad with Marvel movies too. Like after Avengers Endgame and all that shit, I had to stop. I just couldn't keep watching them anymore.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think that happens to I think it happened to a lot of people actually.
Yeah, but
It is what it is, right? All right. So what else you got here? I see something that I want to ask you about.
so the next one is The Beatles Get Back, which it's basically a three-part movie. Um, it's not a series, like it's not episodes. Like these are like 2 or 3 hours each one. It's a three-part movie. It's done by the same guy, It's Peter Jackson, right? He did Lord of the Rings and stuff. Am I getting
Really,
that
I
right?
didn't know he did the Beatles Get Back.
Yeah, he did the Beatles, which it's interesting. He did it in a trilogy. It's funny how he did that, but that's funny because like I have The Hobbit, and you have Lord of the Rings, and I have another Beatles thing. We must just love Peter Jackson. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Peter,
maybe.
Peter Jackson must just be something we like. I didn't put that together till now, but like, yeah, no, it is Peter Jackson. Okay, I did look it up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it
Peter
is. Yeah,
Jackson. Like, I
he's a
don't
great
know.
director.
I mean, yeah, I love the Beatles. Like I said, we're musicians and shit, so like we love music stuff and everything. Like you were saying, there's like music anime stuff you watch. This is insane because it goes through the process of their basically last album. It's like super like there's two albums they had at the end. One was released later, but one was recorded the latest but released second to last.
Yeah,
This is kind of like their last album. Um,
it's not just it's kind of like the moment where you knew they were gonna split.
yeah,
When
which I
they
guess
knew.
makes sense
Yeah.
because it's the ending, right? It's the
Yeah.
last album. And it was supposed to be a movie from like the 1969 of them just making the record is what it was supposed to be all the way back when. But Peter Jackson got a hold of these like 50 hours of some like just a bunch of tape of the Beatles during this time, and he's like, I'm just gonna make it like a documentary, showing how the Beatles were then and the process and everything. So you see the process of how they made this. This whole thing just really inspired me a whole lot when I watched it to make and write music as well. Because like they already inspired me a lot to begin with, but then seeing this whole thing and just so much content, like like a Beatles fan and like a musician would like really love this stuff because of how long it is. I didn't have a problem with like each one being like 3 hours long. I just bought the Blu-ray like collector's edition of it like not too long ago because it looked
Are
just
they even longer on the Blu-ray or something?
yeah, it has like a couple minutes extra on each. So it's not a whole lot more, but it's so good. Yep, it goes from them in
Nice.
studio, and then like they scrap like certain ideas, and then like George Harrison quits the Beatles during this time and gets back together. Then like there's the second movie is them just being okay, let's just record the record. We're not gonna do a live show because that got everybody mad and George quit and everything. And then the third movie is like okay, well, we have the record. We should try maybe play somewhere, and then they end up doing it, and that's when it's the infamous, um, concert
The Get
essentially
Back concert they did in top
on
of
top of
the
the roof.
what was it, like the Apple building, I think.
Yeah, their Apple Studios building on
Yeah.
top of the roof, and it was so loud, making so much distractions and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
the
That the cops
police came in and everything. Yeah.
but the whole thing is just so good. If you're a Beatles fan, a music fan, or a musician, I strongly recommend this. Like, you don't even have to be a Beatles fan. If you're a musician and you watch this, you'll love it. Like, it's so good. Like when this came out, I've been so hyped. Like, that's probably the most recent thing. Yeah, it's like the most recent thing that I've been excited about, especially on my list. You can tell that's like the most recent like thing that I've been super excited to watch. Like when it comes to movies. So yeah, the Beatles Get Back. It's good. It's great. Like I said, it inspired me to try and keep writing more and stuff. And like seeing these guys do this stuff, it just amazes me. So yeah, it's a very inspiring movie. That's why it's there. But moving on, we have Interview with a Vampire. Have you seen this?
I have seen most of the movies you have here, except for The Martian.
The Martian. So Interview with a Vampire. Tom
Yeah.
Cruise, Brad Pitt. I just like how dark it is.
I love the books. I actually read quite a bit of them.
I've thought about reading it because the girl who wrote the books, right? She got this movie. She was supposed to do more, but it like fell apart or something.
Yeah,
So
it
they
did.
never did them.
They only did an interview with a vampire and Queen of the Damned.
Yeah, but Queen of the Damned was like different actors or something. It was weird.
Yeah,
Now
it's like
there's a
way
TV
different. Yeah,
series. There's a TV series happening now. So it's
that's
so
gonna be interesting.
yeah, it's weird. And it's of course not the same actors. So I'm just like, well, that sucks. So I was like,
Well,
maybe I'll just read them.
yeah. I mean, it'll be cool to see what they do. You know, maybe the different actors,
Yeah.
if they can do a good job or whatever. I guess that's remains to be seen, right? But yeah, it could be good, right?
Yeah. It could be good. Yeah, and if not, I could just watch the or not watch, read the books if I have to. I feel like I should just read them probably anyways, and then just like take the series or whatever as is. I would have loved to have had, because it's Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt. Like those are huge stars. Like they weren't as big then, but still decently big. But like now it's like they're older.
They're a much bigger deal than they were back then. Yeah.
It's probably millions of dollars to get not just one of them, but both of them.
Can you imagine trying to get them for like a TV show? That would be crazy. I can see why that's not happening.
Yeah. It would literally just have to be like, oh, they're just doing it because it's a passion project, not because of the pay. You know what I mean?
Right,
but
right.
I don't know.
I don't know. To me, that would be kind of like trying
though.
to get Leonardo DiCaprio to go back and do the Titanic now.
Yeah, but like again, though, maybe he'll do that because he understands it and like it's like a passion project. He's not there for the pay, but like at the end of the day, he needs to get paid though. So it's a hard situation. But Aaron with a Vampire is so good. I love vampires. I've always loved that whole vibe. I like the Twilight movies for certain reasons. I don't think the love or romance that shit's any good, but I think it's interesting because it's like they're vampires with like
I like
powers.
the first and the last books.
Yeah,
the first book and the last book. I was not a fan of the movies themselves. They were okay, but they were kind of like, I don't know. There's something about the cringe from the early 2000s.
It's so bad, dude.
You go back, and you're like, yo, this was even worse than I recall.
Yeah, there's certain bits of they're not great, and it's definitely catered towards girls. So I just sort of go, whatever during those bits. But the whole overarching story isn't actually that bad.
To me, the whole thing, I literally watched those and I was like, I just want to know whether she becomes a vampire or not.
Yeah,
and the fact that the writer kept dragging that over, I'm like, dude, just do it, just let her be vampire. Yeah. And they did it until the end. But you know what? I will say the ending, Breaking Dawn, like the last part, where all the vampires show up with the different superpowers and shit.
Oh
that
was God,
badass. Like I want more of that. There was this vampire, I still remember to this day, that literally controls the elements like the Avatar. And like that kind of stuff. I'm like, dude, make a book about this. Like you're losing millions. Forget about Twilight. Like if you write a book about this one kid,
three books of romance. So like, yeah, look at these badass powers right at the end.
Yeah, right.
They've always had them, right? Like Edward's like, what is he able to? He's able to
read minds.
Read minds, or kind of like sense like how somebody's feeling from like really far away and shit. Like
and then,
that's his.
Then the other girl can see the future, which is like broken as fuck, especially by the end of the.
That's hacks, dude. Pure hacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the great movies. Enter the Vampire, I'd say personally, because like the Twilight movies, there's more of them. Sure, better overall story, but Enter the Vampire just as a movie standalone is really good.
Yeah,
like that movie
it is pretty good. Yeah, I will say that. You're right. It's a pretty good movie, and the books are really good too. I encourage you guys to read them if you're interested in vampires and that kind of stuff.
They
don't write vampires like this anymore.
Yeah, I'll probably do that, and I'll probably read the Twilight stuff at some point as well. But I think it's interesting if you like understand like the day in life of like what it would be to be a vampire, because a lot of times in these movies, like Underworld, for instance, it's like you're just fighting. You're not understanding.
Yeah, Underworld had such a cool aesthetic, but literally, like I remember nothing of the characters or even the story. Yeah. It was just that Like, and it was a cool premise, like the whole like lichens versus vampires and everything. That was cool, but it was like mindless action at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm like, what happens if you turn? Like, what's it look like? Yeah, how does it feel without it? Like, do all this stuff when you turn into a vampire? Like, they don't explain that in certain stuff. You know what the vampire does? Like, in like Twilight, I think they have a similar concept where it's like you can bite a person, but if you take too much blood, they die. If you don't, and then you feed them your blood, they become a
Yeah,
vampire.
it's like
I
extra
love that.
steps.
Yeah, but like I like the detail though.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It builds up the lore of the vampires and everything.
yeah,
Like,
I'm just
yeah,
like I'm like, how do vampires happen? We're killing and slaughtering them, but like, what's the deal?
yeah,
And
right,
also
right.
like
Give us an explanation so we
the
know
Twilight
what's going
ones,
on.
they drink blood from like animals, and like we kill animals and eat them all the time. So it's like that they're not so bad actually. You know, like what's the difference? So I liked when they went that stuff. My next one, Coraline. We already talked about that, but my center one, like my all-time best one, is Interstellar. So now we're getting into like my sci-fi stuff here. Interstellar is so good because I'm just like a huge space nerd in general, but Interstellar is one of those sci-fi movies that like borders very closely to like not like super science fiction. Like it has some sci-fi in there, but it's like potentially like relatable in like the next 10, 20 years. You know, because we are sending rockets to Mars and stuff like that. We've sent probes to like Saturn and like different
Right.
things further out there. So like this movie is not like that far beyond like the potential of like humans in the next couple decades. So like that's why I really love Interstellar. Space and just in general and exploring space and other planets is something I've always been fascinated by, like especially as a kid. Like I remember that like the early 2000s, I was like, why haven't we been on other planets? Just like, we just haven't. I'm like, how many places have we been to? Like, I remember asking my parents, they're like, oh, just the moon. That's it. I'm like, what? I was like, how did we go to the moon in the 60s? But now
Right.
it's like,
How has it been? Like, I always wonder that. I'm like,
yeah,
it's been like 60, no, 70 years. Like,
yeah,
like, and we have not. You're telling me that in 60 years we have not gone to any other, like, anything else? Like, why are we
no
living
planets or
here?
other moons, like just
Yeah.
nothing.
It's
Yeah,
actually kind of depressing to think about. Like there was
that's
a
what I'm saying.
craze
I
of like
hate
going
that.
to, yeah, like going to the moon and all this stuff, and then suddenly that they stop, and I'm like, why would you stop? Why don't you want to go?
Yeah, but now like there's, and he's a controversial figure. There's Elon Musk doing his stuff. What's the lead dude of Amazon? Jeff Bezos is
Yes,
doing his own
Bezos.
things. Boeing's doing stuff. There's uh, places in like China and India. They're all trying to go to different
Yeah.
places and put bases on the moon and stuff. And I
Hey,
don't know why,
that's
but I really
cool.
love that.
Yeah, me too. I always been excited for that. Is that also what you like, The Martian as well?
Yeah, it's also why I love the Martian. I love to explore, like in
Hmm.
general. I know I stay inside and play video games all the time, but I play it because like I love otherworldly experiences and seeing different places and things. I don't know why, like that
That's
adventurous
kind of
side
why
of
I like
me.
that, because I would like to travel. Trust me, even though I am a
Yeah.
very much in my house all the time, I'm a person that if I had the chance to be able to go out places, I
Oh,
would. But
definitely, dude.
I'm so broke that I'm like I cannot afford to do that. But
It's so hard too. It's
but
just so,
thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, dude, I will totally do it if I had the money for it.
it's just interesting to see new places, understand like the lore behind places and whatnot as well. That's what fascinates me about space too. It's like it's endless. You could keep exploring forever and learning new things. Something about that. I think that's just like in humans, like innately, we want to explore and stuff. And I feel like space is just like the ultimate. It's like it's the final frontier, right? So that's why I love Interstellar. And the movie's good itself too, because it deals with more than just going to space, but also it's about
Like, right.
multiple dimensions too. So I won't spoil it, but it deals with multi-dimension like manipulation and whatnot, and
Hmm.
also trying to put civilization on other planets and things. So it's
Yeah,
very
it's
interesting.
like Martian too, right? It's like more about like the person, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
not
the
just about
Martian
like.
It's just him surviving on
Right, right,
Mars.
exactly, yeah. But it's that's what I said. Like, it's not really just about space. Like, there's like a lot more
Yeah.
to it. Like, there's the psyche of him in Mars and all that stuff.
Yeah, and like how could you survive stranded on a planet, and he's there by himself trying to do that.
Mm,
How long could you really stretch it out? That's why I love that one. And
yeah,
Interstellar as well. Interstellar, like I said, it's not super sci-fi where it's like Star Trek or Star Wars, but it's like on the borderline of like realistic. That's why I love it. Same thing with The
yeah.
Martian. We're
Mm,
gonna have people on Mars in like the next 5 or 6 years,
mm.
supposedly. That's where they're aimed at, projected to be. So like that one's pretty realistic too. But yeah, that's Interstellar. My second one, that's kind of The Martian too. That's really it. I just love space.
Hey, nothing wrong
19,
with that. I like that stuff too. I had Star Wars in there. I can't complain.
yeah, Star Wars is good, but it doesn't focus like so much on the spacey
On the
stuff.
space, yeah.
It's there though. Like the Death Star, I thought was always interesting because like imagine being able to harness the power of a sun. Like that'd be insane. That'd be crazy. But
Exactly.
yeah,
All right.
1917. Have you seen that one?
1917. I have not. I think I saw trailers for it, but I have not actually seen it.
So it's a World War One movie, hence the name 1917. It's a World War One movie that it has like Benedict Cumberbatch in it, the guy who plays Doctor Strange. It has him in there at certain bits, but he's not a main character by any means. He's like really not even like close to being like
Yeah, I think
main
this movie
cast.
came out when he wasn't like super famous. I think he was just a actor for like TV shows
He,
and stuff.
I think he did one Doctor Strange movie because this movie came out 2 years ago.
Oh,
I
really?
think.
Oh, okay. I thought this was way older than that, man.
Nah, 1917 is newer. I'm pretty sure it's at least not
2019.
3 years old. Yeah, 2019. Yeah,
Oh, okay, okay. Interesting.
but
So he just has like a smaller role. I guess he didn't. They didn't want to pay him too much.
yeah, maybe I
Like,
don't
hey,
know.
we want to have you here, but we can't afford to pay you a lot for a
Well,
major role.
it also just focuses on like a normal soldier. That's kind of the deal with it. But 1917 is interesting because it's super like realistic World War One. That's kind of the whole gist of it. It's not like Saving Private Ryan, where like there's a lot of crazy shit and stuff that you probably wouldn't survive, but somehow you're surviving it because you're the badass Americans, right? You're gonna get through it. But it's like no, like war is scary as shit. Like bad things happen. It's not always like straightforward. That's why I loved 1917. I do love Saving Private Ryan. Don't get me wrong, but like 1917 is like the pure like war movie, and it's also just another weird like just in terms of like cinema and like filming movies. It's filmed all in one shot,
Oh
which is
wow, really?
crazy.
That is insane.
They don't take. Apparently, the movie actually has one cut. It fades to black during one scene, but like there's a scene where he's like running across an entire field of like like soldiers, and they're like we're just trying to film it one take, and he actually like somebody accidentally bumps into him because there's hundreds of people running. It bumps into him. He like falls on the ground and rolls around and gets up and just keeps running. So there's like
What the
certain
hell?
bits in there where like if it looks like it was actually realistic in the war, they'll keep it in. But the whole thing is like shot from like one
Wow, that is crazy, dude.
angle.
That's pretty
There's no,
interesting.
it doesn't cut and then jump to like minutes later to a new scene. You're just watching what this guy goes through in like 2 or 3 hours or whatever.
Nice, nice.
But
That's pretty interesting.
yeah, it's scary too. Like it's a World War One movie that's like actually scary. Funny enough.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think that's as it should be, right? Like, war isn't like particularly glamorous or anything like that.
yeah, and it's
Uh,
not just him like shooting and killing a bunch of people, but he does have to fight, right? Uh, he loses his like friend or whatever in it too, and yeah, it's an interesting movie. If you like war movies, it's very good. If you like a good story, it's pretty good too. But it's not like Interstellar level of story. It's still just like a simple war story, right?
right, right. It's cool. I
So,
like it. It sounds cool. I'll check it out someday. I'm not really a big war fan. Like, I don't
mm.
watch movies about war or anything like that. But I'll check it out. It sounds interesting enough to see
Yeah, fair
what they
enough.
got.
Yeah, I think I just like learning about it. Like
Yeah.
my whole thing with the stuff I have here, it's like fantasy, sci-fi, and like war. I don't know what that's
Yeah,
about.
right. I just had like sci-fi and fantasy.
Yeah, I have three war movies, and the rest are like fantasy. And I guess the Beatles is like the oddball here, I
Yeah,
suppose.
documentary rather.
Yeah, but the Hobbit, I sort of talked about that again. It's just Tolkien's writing is so good, and Peter Jackson does such a good job with the movies. It's good. And like I said, a lot of people had some backlash with this one, but I still think it's a great movie, hands down. All of them. I kind of just have the one there. If I had to pick out of the three, I'd probably say the last one. Funny enough, I love the resolve in the last Hobbit movie. But it's kind of just like one of those movies though, where
Yeah.
it's like you have to watch all of them, and I kind of put all of them together as a whole thing. I don't. It's so hard to separate it, especially since it was supposed to be one book, right? I find it hard to separate all of them. I mean, they are separate movies, but like you have to watch one before you can watch two. You know what I mean? You can't
Right, right,
jump
right.
to
Hmm.
another one. Yeah. The same thing with like Harry Potter and Back to the Future. You have no fucking clue what's happening
Yeah,
if you do
yeah.
that. Like it doesn't make any
It's a
sense. But
trilogy for a reason, right?
yeah, The Martian, same thing. A good movie. It's just more of a survival space slash sci-fi type movie. Very good. I love that. But the last one here, and this is probably my second favorite, like Interstellar and The Pianist. The Pianist is a World War II movie as well. I think it's a Polish guy, and this is based off of a true story. And most of the events in this is like completely real. The guy wrote a book in like 1990 something about this man from like 1940 or whatever, trying to escape the Germans in Poland. Is basically what happened. And he was a pianist. He played piano. He played like piano on radio. He was so good in like Poland or whatever. And basically, the Germans were coming in and they were like, no, nothing's going to happen because it's the start of the war. Like, the Germans won't take over Poland. There's no way. And then they do it. And they're like super scared. And he's like, I don't know what to do. They like take away his family and everything. He gets separated from them. It's like a whole crazy thing. But it's basically his start to finish of him surviving the war while being a musician. And certain places, him being a musician comes to play. Like he eventually like loses his family. He's trying to like work and he's in like internment camps to survive and just get through the war. It's a very good just story elements done there. The people he meets, what he has to do, like sneaking around the Germans to try and like help people and help like just escape in general. And he ends up like at the end of the movie and like he's just like all war torn, like has a long beard and everything, and he's hiding in this house, and everything's just like leveled and destroyed around him, and it's like he's the only one there pretty much by the end of the movie. Like everything around him's just so destroyed, and he somehow survived this whole time. And this German guy finds him, but he doesn't kill him. He's like, because he's like, what do you do for a living, or what did you used to do before the war? And he's like, I was a pianist, and he ends up playing piano for the German guy, and the German guy actually hides him and keeps him there. He's like a higher ranking general or
Right, yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting sort of bit there. I
It's
think
really
he's
good. That's a really good movie. It's also really sad
yeah.
because
Wait, have you seen
it
it?
deals with, yes, in it, yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. I was like halfway explaining it for you, but like
Oh no,
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 I
I've seen it. It's a
guess I
great
was gonna
movie.
say,
It's one of my dad's favorite movies. I've seen it a few times. Yeah.
I fucking love it.
It's kind of war movie. You know.
Yeah, but he's not fighting,
No,
but
he's
like
not fighting, but the war is happening, right? So that's kind of part of the story too. Um,
yeah, it's
but
fun to learn about too. Like I said, it doesn't necessarily always have to be like shooting a lot. Like 1917, The Pianist, like two war movies where like there really isn't any fighting or shooting from like the main character too much. 1917 there's a little bit, but that's pretty much it. But yeah, The Pianist is again, if you like war movies, this is good. If you like a good story, if you're a musician, it's also very good as well. So I highly recommend. But yeah, I think that wraps it up. I
that was
think.
it. Oh, nice, nice. I think we were pretty uneven here. Spent a long time talking, and then we went 3 years in like 20 minutes or 30 minutes.
Yeah, we always do that. Again,
uh,
that's why the podcast we talk too much, dude.
anyway,
But
thank you everybody for watching this incredibly long podcast. It may be one of the longest ones we've done so far here. It
yeah,
was really fun. I think we don't really get to talk about movies very often, but it was cool. I love these movies. I love movies. I love watching movies and talking about them. And it was a nice opportunity to talk about it, I think. And if you guys want to leave us some comments down below, tell us what are your favorite movies. Is there any movies that you like,
yeah.
or
Give us some recommendations.
yeah,
Yeah,
give us stuff. You know, you know now what we like. We like sci-fi. We like fantasy, and he likes war movies. So let us know. Give us
yeah,
those some recommendations. There's some stuff. There was one thing I never actually brought up, but Quentin Tarantino movies. I really
yeah, dude.
almost put Pulp Fiction. And I did it because I was like, that's gonna be such a like everybody likes Quentin Tarantino, but I wanted to put it there
That's true.
somewhere. So I was like, I was like, okay, I
Kill
won't put
Bill
it
is good
there.
too.
Uh,
Like Kill Bill and Glorious Bastards, Django
yeah,
Unchained. Those are all
Django.
great.
Yeah, there's just a lot of good movies that he has. So I wanted to give him a shout out before. Oh, Guillermo del Toro is another director that I like too.
True.
Uh,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, just talking about this. But anyway, thank you so much for watching this, guys. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
See you, everybody.